really.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, to round 3 of the first weekly of the Season 3 Eternal Tournament Series. We are about to get into a spicy little matchup here. We have our very own LocoPojo on what is considered the classic Carpet Shuffle deck, playing Water of Life, notably, in it, so that'll be interesting to check out. Those are in the main board, by the way, and one in the sideboard. And we have Drolicheck on the other side, playing Huru Aegis, which is another deck that I have seen crop up on the ladder recently with the introduction of the Waylands, the Wayland card. What is her full name? aReNGee, bail me out.
The Borderlands Waykeeper.
Thank you, Wayland. What Borderlands Waykeeper?
I
like
that we're looking for.
Together. Yes, thank you. Yeah, she is part of Drolicheck's list, I assume, and his is actually. Oh, this is actually. Sorry, I said Huru Aegis. Borderlands Waykeeper definitely in the deck, but this is actually Huru Flyers. Even more spicy. We have some Cloud Snake hatchlings. We got some Borderlands Waykeepers. We have some Cloud Snake saddles. Eager Owlet. This is going to be a very, very spicy.
You're going to see some cards you don't see too much in this match. That we can say for sure.
Yeah, definitely going a matchup you are not familiar with seeing unless you play one of these two decks. Probably the Carpet Shuffle deck, but then again, I can't say playing the latter. I've run into a particularly large amount of Huru Flyers. It's more the Huru Aegis deck that we were talking about. That I know a couple players did actually bring to the tournament. Definitely seen a surge in popularity on the latter.
So I'm going to peg myself as an expert in exactly this matchup. I've definitely played this matchup a lot. I've never played this matchup. But I'm going to give the advantage to the Huru that involves attacking, and the Carpet Shuffle deck involves hoping its opponent doesn't do anything at any point, and it gets to do nothing and win. So the Aegis units that are included, most of the Carpet Shuffle removal is 1-for-1 and damage based, so it won't necessarily be able to take out the huge Aegis that Drolicheck's deck is possible putting out, especially if he gets a good aggressive start, maybe with that famous Cloud Snake hatchling into the very same Cloud Snake saddle, attack for 4 on turn 2. So it'll be interesting to see if Drolicheck is able to get his game plan working, or if LocoPojo is able to stall it out and get his game plan going.
Yeah, definitely an interesting dynamic you mentioned. Since most people probably aren't familiar with like Huru Flyers as an archetype, it's not one that crops up very often. Seeing a little bit more with the Borderlands Waykeeper. This deck can get very aggressive. It is very possible for it to have some quick games with cards like Cloud Snake Hatchling into Eager Owlets, into Cloud Snake Saddles on those cards. You got Tinker Overseers with the Paladin Oath books. And the deck even plays, a decent bit of answers here. It's got a one crystallizably in the main to try and go ahead and help out with some of those board stall situations that might present themselves, or just to buy you a turn or two. Also see cards like Valkyrie Enforcer in here, no surprise. Big flyer, able to lock the board down. We also have Polymorph and Vanquish, which can help clean up some very problematic cards for the Huru Flyers deck. Allows them to keep their game plan rolling. Polymorph and Vanquish, notably important for Sandstorm. Titan is what kills Huru Flyers as a deck, and why we often see flyer-based strategies come out that often. Sandstorm Titan, really good at holding them to the ground.
Yeah, unfortunately, all those removal spells fall a little bit flat against LocoPojo's deck. He's got a total of 5 units between main and side, and Vanquish can hit 0 of them. So he's limited to downgrading 3/3s with Polymorph, and polymorphing something that's, it's already got its thing. So not exactly what you want to be seeing, but he can side those out and bring in stuff that's going to be more useful to him, like Crown Watch Paladin protects, maybe a few backlashes in case LocoPojo gets fully out of control. So he does have some good cards to bring in, and if he can take the first game, I think he's pretty advantaged to take the match.
Yeah, definitely. Pojo's sideboard going to be interesting for this matchup as well. Not a huge amount of cards that are going to be super impactful. Probably the lightning strikes, if I had to, of anything that I see in the sideboard that will be coming in. Going to need those lightning strikes to go ahead and clean up some of these very problematic units that the Hooru Flyers deck is able to use.
So unluckily, LocoPojo's not playing the Dirtler's best friend in Levitate, which wouldn't do much for him as he doesn't have too many units that he actually cares about whether or not they have flying, but would be very good at getting rid of the various Aegis, the Aegis on the Drolicheck's various units for value. So he does not have that advantage, but it looks like we're going into game one potentially. So
yeah, it's an interesting card that people don't really sideboard very often or bring in, but would be very good in a lot of instances. Would be Violent Gust, actually. Card relegated mostly to draft, and even there, it's not particularly amazing, but could actually be a very solid sideboard card, being able to knock out flying units in Primal, which is a color that often doesn't have a very, very good way to deal with singleton units outside of lightning strikes. We do see, since Pojo is playing Carpet Shuffle, he does have the Static Bolt handy, which will actually be good for taking care of the units. But
problem is they're also his win conditions, so you're left with sort of a, do I use them for removal or do I save them to actually kill my opponent, sort of thing. So we'll have to see if he can strike the proper balance. But it looks like we finally hit our match and we are ready to go.
yeah, we are jumping into this. Pojo with an interesting hand here off the bat, notably seeing that Water of Life right out of the gate, and Decay. Interestingly enough, Decay actually not going to be super dead in this matchup. Decent number of cards that can hit between the weapons and the so be interesting. And Drolicheck with a relatively slow hand out of his deck that's generally more geared towards playing 1 and 2 drops and spiraling them out of control.
Yeah. But it looks like he'll have some time as LocoPojo's not going to be doing too much for a while anyways. Still, Drolicheck will need another sigil in order to actually cast any relevant part of his hand, but does draw it. Yeah, so we're gonna see a slow start out of both players.
Yeah, very true. Interesting that you mentioned that though, because looking at LocoPojo's hand, he really does not have a lot going on here. If we see Hammer of Might get dropped here on Drolicheck's 3/3, we could have seen the Decay come back, but instead, I think Drolicheck's going to wisely go ahead and just punch this 3 and drop another Valkyrie Enforcer and just start putting a lot of pressure on Pojo and forcing him to have an answer.
Interesting. Well, Lightning Storm can combine with that Static Bolt to take down one of his units, but it looks like he's able to find a second, which may be able to take both down next turn.
Yeah, interestingly enough, it might be able to take both down. It should be able to take at least one down, maybe. But actually, yeah, with Pojo not being able to fire off the Decay, Drolicheck's going to be able to protect the 3/3 in this case. And Pojo, even in an even more awkward situation now, going to have to just pass his turn and fire off this Decay when the units come swinging back in. And I have to imagine we might just see a protect out of Drolicheck since he picked up the second one. Yeah, going to go ahead and protect his weapon and push 9 damage here, putting Pojo in a very scary situation. Already almost dead just on the board.
Water of Life is, and it helps stem a bit of the bleeding, but it really does not solve the problem that he's taking 9 damage every turn here. Picks up a Feeding Time though, which I imagine is going to run into another protect.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, we see him go ahead and protect the 1/3/1, and then we're going to see the Finest Hour follow up to protect here, and LocoPojo playing out 3 cards to trade 2, but ultimately not do very much. And with this Storm Dancer coming down next turn, Pojo is in a very tough situation. I don't know if he has a way out of this, and I'm inclined to believe not. Excavate, an interesting card. Not what he's looking for here, though, unfortunately. Don't think he's going to be able to handle this. The units themselves are just going to come in and cause quite a beatdown.
No, it looks like Drolicheck's going to take the first game.
Yeah. Drolicheck taking he had a very slow start, but kind of what we mentioned at the top here before they got into game, where Pojo just doesn't have a lot of ways to interact with units terribly well, and we see him end up getting he had to trade Protect and Finest Hour, Drolicheck did, for Pojo's 2 Lightning Storms and a Static Bolt, but you're pretty happy in that situation when it means that your 6/6 and 3/3 end up living on the board, and those 2 units themselves just provide to be too much of a beatdown for Pojo, so he's going to have to find a game plan that's going to work out well for him in this case.
Pojo angrily deletes his Carpet Shuffle sideboard list. No, he's just duplicating it. So we'll have to see what he brings in order to optimize his matchup, since that first game really didn't go his way at all. Drolicheck had all the answers.
Yeah, not particularly in his favor. Both players in their sideboards now. We went over their sideboards a little bit, but I am curious to see what these players are going to value here. I have to imagine out of Drolicheck especially, going to see these Vanquishes come out and going to see maybe some Crown Watch Paladins come in. I feel like they're pretty good against Pojo's deck. He's got to find 2 answers for them, essentially. Double Lightning Storms, which isn't great. And yeah, we see a couple cards coming out on the other side. For Drolicheck, he ends up cutting his list up. Yeah, finding a way to get all of those Crown Watch Paladins in. Definitely notably taking out the Vanquishes. Actually gets a Rain of Frogs in there as well.
I mean, it can be pretty devastating if you hit that Static Bolt, as the Carpet Shuffle list does not have much of a backup plan if those get taken down.
No, not particularly. There is a very good way to shut them down. I didn't quite catch if Drolicheck had the backlashes in, but he very well might have. On the other hand, we see Pojo messing around with his list a little bit, trying to figure out what is going to be the optimal plan to help take care of this deck. We see him having some sabotages coming in. Like I had said earlier, I'm pretty sure the Lightning Strikes are coming in. Might see either the Feeding Times or the Death Strikes, preferably the Death Strikes, although they are a little hard to cast in his list. Strains the power base just a little bit more. But yeah, we do see 2 Lightning Strikes coming in. I think I did see him very quickly go past the Death Strikes. Yep, Death Strikes came in. Rain of Frogs is in. And just trying to cut up his last cards really quick. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. It really will depend, again, on how early of a start Drolicheck can get off to with the Flyers deck, and what kind of removal and answers Pojo can amass. Try and combat the horde of these flying units that are going to be getting more and more out of control all the time. Did not see a Paladin Oathbook that game, but Paladin Oathbook definitely an important part of the Hooroo Flyers decks. Makes each of those little flyers very scary. Also combos very nicely with the Borderlands Waykeeper.
Yeah, so I don't actually have the greatest sideboarding here for both of the players. I think that Drolicheck has done a good job in streamlining his deck, and LocoPojo is doing his best to survive the onslaught. But I do want to comment that Drolicheck has named his deck Sky Punch, and that's hilarious. And I really hope that he he is able to indeed Sky Punch the Carpet Shuffle deck down.
Yeah, and we will see if he can get that Sky Punch in. It's definitely looking like there's going to be a bit of early Sky Punching. This Eager Owlet looking like it's going to connect here. Tinker Overseer coming down. Drolicheck, though, drawing a lot of power. Not really what his deck is looking to do. He's pretty low to the ground, so he's looking for minimum power, very high interaction. And Pojo there responding with one of his Static Bolts to just try and reduce the damage out of the Eager Owlet and or Overseer that would be coming in next turn, but more Sky Punching coming in, Eager Owlet getting in for 3 more damage. And Pojo at least has answers now. He's got the Storm to take care of the Overseer and the Lightning Strike to follow up on the Owlet. It's going to be pretty important, actually. The Lightning Strike taking care of this, and all of a sudden, Drolicheck's hand is reduced to 3 power and a 1/2. So he's kind of at the mercy of his deck right now. Pojo, on the other hand, has an Island's Favor, a Scheme, and a Second Sight. So plenty of things to go fish for. Probably going to get this Elysian Trailblazer, I have to imagine. Going to want to try and give some of his spells Echo. Though the Death Strike is quite tempting. He still doesn't have the second Black Influence or Shadow Influence to play it.
Yeah, it looks like here Drolicheck's deck sort of, as these aggro decks that are running a very limited amount of card selection can sometimes do, drew a bit too much power and not, stonewalled a bit by LocoPojo's deck. Now we might be able to.
Yeah, we might be able to see LocoPojo finally getting in here and actually taking over the situation. Drolicheck's still top decking power. Yeah, LocoPojo in a very solid situation. Ooh, and Echo Lightning Strike. That's actually going to be very, very solid for Pojo. And since he does have them echoed, he's going to go ahead and replace it on top of the deck, get even more Lightning Strike. And this is going to be all the removal he needs for a while, it looks like. Drolicheck very light on units. Finally picks up Crown Watch Paladin, but that unfortunately does not trade well into the ground.
Well, it does get the first Warcry trigger going, and if he can get some, if he can get something that survives one of these lightning strikes, maybe he might be able to start pressuring LocoPojo again.
That's true. It does put him in a situation that is going to be hard for him to deal with if he can get a big cry unit. But with the double lightning strikes and Finest Hour, it is possible to push it out of range, but Drolicheck actually has to worry about dying himself here. Like, get beat down. The Finest Hour here is going to help quite a bit, though, keeping this card up. But we see Backlash in response from Pojo, been sitting in his hand. Drolicheck, not exactly what he had in mind. And no, it is not, because that is most likely going to be Pojo closing out this game in just a few short turns now. Can't see a world where Drolicheck wins at this point. Pojo's established his game plan. He's got 6 damage on board every turn. He's got 2 lightning strikes, 2 wisdoms, an Elysian to copy his next spell, and Drolicheck picking over with nothing to play it on.
Well, it's a start. He's going to need a big unit, like probably a Valkyrie Enforcer or something, plus a hammer, plus another spell. So it's going to take some drawing, but it's not totally out there. But yeah, you are completely right. LocoPojo is taking a commanding position in this game, and it looks like we will be going to game 3.
Yeah, I am pretty sure no matter what Drolicheck drew there, that was not going to be able to get past the static bolts that were going to be coming off the top of the deck that were going to get very big. 2 4-damage static bolts. Actually, I think they would have been 5 damage. Yeah, third time they were drawn, plus he would have drawn the extra 1 to make sure that they were up to 5. So, cool. Game 2 out of LocoPojo there with the carpet shuffle. Drolicheck's deck, as you mentioned, just kind of falling into the trap of a lot of aggro decks where they can very easily run out of gas and just top deck too much of their